That's it.
You. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice of the meeting has been given to the press and public in accordance with the open public meetings law.
I'm a little skip it. Can I, anybody feel this for a second?
No?
Approval minutes?
Regular meeting of November 26th.
Make a motion.
No basketball practice with the kids tonight.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy? Longo? Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Trembler?
Report of manager?
We have a report that we recently took delivery of a new generator at the senior facility. We're waiting on the contract to complete the installation. Once that generator is installed, we'll have a facility there. We use that facility from time to time as a warming center. So it'll be an advantage for us to have a generator there with unrestricted, no restrictions on the usage of that building going forward. There's also a generator scheduled to be delivered at the fire headquarters on Franklin Avenue, and an update to the one here at the municipal building. These came through grant money that we received. We received a grant for the installation and purchase of these generators. Also, I'm very happy to report that the municipality had difficulty receiving deliveries of rock salt, but due to the efforts of our superintendent of public works and myself in purchasing, we made numerous calls to the supplier and the trucking company, and we received 100 tons of rock salt delivered today, which was desperately needed for the projected of snow for Thursday and Saturday this week. Without that, it would have been very, very difficult. We have an alternate supplier, but it comes at a great expense to us to get the second supplier. That's it.
Kevin, any questions?
Yeah, we have a problem, Kevin, with these garbage cans and cones and chairs and parking spots. A woman on Bridge Street shoveled her car out, and she went to work. She came home, somebody was in her spot. Well, the streets belong to everybody, so you can park where you want. So she went over to DeWitt Avenue, and she removed a cone or a bicycle or whatever the hell was in the parking spot, and she parked her car there. The next morning she got up, and she had 4 flat tires.
Oh.
I mean, you drive around, you see all these crap in these spots. You either got to tell Public Works tomorrow to ride around and pick up all these things that are in parking spots, or move them to the side and put something in the newspaper or on the webpage that you can't reserve parking spots. Before somebody gets killed over a parking spot.
Maybe we could get Loman going and like Roddy
No stickers, notices, given notice on.
Yeah, they could start removing
Notices
that.
on the homes.
And what are we going to do?
Do a reverse 911 too.
And another problem, what are we going to do with these cars that are sitting for 2 weeks now?
Well, certainly the police department has given people ample time to clean their vehicles out at this point in time. Vehicles should be
The
cleaned.
main thing is the people reserve the parking spots. You drive down Academy Street, every spot has a chair, a cone, refrigerator, whatever they have available in it. I mean, now this woman, she got her tires cut. But you're gonna get somebody that's gonna be really teed off and is gonna shoot somebody or knife somebody over a stupid spot.
When we do a reverse 911, and then I know they can tell everybody that's not shoveled out, we just, effective Monday, we'll start ticketing and towing. Okay?
Absolutely.
That's all I have,
We'll give the
man.
weekend notice.
I'd like to know when the Civil Lake Firehouse is going to be renovated and the Friendly House with their parking and everything. We had a catastrophe for the fire on Franklin Street, and it could have been really worse, and we need to do something. And then I hear about this generator. You think we have an extra generator to put in the Friendly House when it's finally done? Since we got a grant.
You could hope to get another grant from that facility, but there is not any extra money available in the grant program that we receive those 2 grants out of.
Okay, when is the Friendly House and the Firehouse going to be completed?
I'll answer this question separately. The Friendly House
I can't hear you,
parking
Ken.
lot, the Friendly House parking lot is scheduled to be paid as soon as the weather breaks. As part of the road improvement bonds that we did last year. contract was awarded to Cefelli. And as soon as the weather breaks, so we can do road work and also do that parking lot. One of them there, we can get a certificate of occupancy, and the building will be open, and we live in County Salmon. With regards to the Silver Lake Firehouse, though, at this point in time, we have to make a determination. I think I'm going to invite the chief of the fire department to come in and do a presentation to the council with his visions for that building.
So we're not going to renovate the
I'm
firehouse.
not saying that, we certainly have money allocated for the repair of the roof and the renovation of the building. Like I said, because the chief is more knowledgeable here as fire safety than I am, I prefer to have him come in and have a discussion on that with him present.
Okay. Guess those are the answers.
Were you having anything else?
No.
Yeah, Kevin mentioned the generator at the senior building for a warming station. Is that going to be open this weekend? Because they said it'll be the whole state of the year so far.
You know, we usually open the warming center on a weekly basis, and certainly looking at the forecast, we will probably consider opening it Thursday, Friday, and Saturday if need be. Fortunately, we open it, and there really is not a lot of demand for it, which is fortunate.
Well, that's good.
But it's important that we take the steps to make it available. We
Yeah,
know
that's
that,
right.
last week when we opened it, there was a section in the valley on Monday that had no power. It was an isolated area. Not many homes were affected, but we
Yeah.
did do the reverse 911 call, protocol. We notified the website, was
Yeah.
updated to notify
Well, as long as
people,
they're ready.
and we'll continue the process.
All right, then.
I just had a quick thing for you. I know there was a penalty clause in the assault delivery. Is that how you guys motivated them?
According to the county purchasing agent, the penalty clause was put in there for the county and not necessarily for the municipalities. But when we brought their attention to the fact that it did not specify only for the county, they got highly motivated because they did not want to have to, all of a sudden we were hearing tomorrow, and then next thing we know, we got 100 tons of wood. So we're protected. I can't speak for some of the other nearby municipalities, but we are protected. And we have, so far throughout this winter, like I said, thanks to the effort of Mr. Superintendent, we've been well served.
Thank you, gentlemen. That's it.
Thank you. Communications?
Excuse me, A, communication received from Comcast in New Jersey for a check in the amount of $171,675.08 to be used in municipal right of way. B, that a receipt from Comcast for a check in the amount of $270,788.20 for use of the municipal right of way. C, request received from the Belleville Soccer Association for use of the stadium on Saturdays and Sundays from March 17th through June 22nd from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. and for practice on Mondays through Fridays from 5 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. with a request to waive the fees and a request from the Iron Man Soccer Association to use the field on March 13th and 15th with the payment.
I make a motion to approve it, but let them check with Mr. Augusta first to see if those days are available.
Second motion.
That in the high school, right? I mean, that's the other side, the high school itself too. The sports program for the high school, just coordinate with them. That's why- Yeah.
Clerk call roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kibble?
Yes. Ordinance strictly number
Ordinance number 1 for introduction, ordinance authorizing the purchase and/or acceptance of conveyance of real property known as Block 2301, Lot 1, commonly known as 11 Franklin Avenue, in the Township of Belleville, New Jersey, from Roche Diagnostics Corporation.
Make a motion to move for introduction.
Second.
Clerk call roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
No.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Before I vote, I would just like to say that I am definitely for development. What I am worried about is what the cleanup will cost. And I do not want that on the backs of our taxpayers, so I will have to vote no.
Mayor Kibble.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2 for introduction, an ordinance to amend the revised general ordinances of the Township of Belleville, Chapter 8-16, handicap parking spaces.
Make a motion, move for introduction.
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kibble.
Yes, I'm gonna skip around. We have Major League umpire Phil Cousy here tonight. He wants to make a very generous donation to the Township of Belleville, more specifically to the high school baseball team, and one which is greatly appreciated, and we really acknowledge that, but I'm gonna let Phil tell you what it is. I'm gonna see if you have anything to say.
No, Phil, I've known Phil for close to 45 years. Our mothers worked in Sodality together. His generosity is unbelievable. What he's done for the ALS Foundation is absolutely phenomenal as well. So Phil, just tell him what your intent is and what
Phil, you have the
you
floor.
have the floor.
Thank you for having me here. Later in my business, believe me, I'm not used to hearing applause. But, I wanted to, there's always one guy. When I started this charity for ALS, it was not only for research and victims, it was also for scholarships for their children. So we have given money to people's children as well. What I found out through the attorney that helped me with this, my organization, was that anything to do with a school also falls under the umbrella of education. So with that, I would like to donate to the baseball team, and I know that you have to help me with this, whether it's going to the Board of Education or for the town. I know that the property is in the town, owned by the town. The bottom line of it is we can work through all of that. I would like to, I first thought about donating a tarp to cover the field. I think it might be difficult because you need manpower to be able to put it on, take it off. So in asking the Coach Source, what is it that you could use? And he said a batting cage. So I would like to donate a batting cage that, the only stipulation I have is, it costs a fair amount of money. I want it to be protected by a cyclone fence over and around with a locking cage. Having said that, I'm happy for my charity to pay for that. I'm sure that we could work out something with the labor through the town. The only thing is, I want it to be strictly controlled. I want it to be for the high school, not necessarily limited to the high school, but I want it to be controlled as to who's going to be able to use it and when.
Who's going to be responsible for it?
Exactly, yeah. So, again, I'd just like it to be locked in, and then during the winter months, with the inclement weather, I'd like it to be able to be taken down and stored. And other than that, that's.
Well, maybe we can make more money. We'll run a charity where the council goes up and tries to hit one of them. No, we appreciate it, Phil. I know the schools in the dilemma now, they really can't afford anything extra. So anything like this is really greatly appreciated. And we'll work out the logistics and make sure it's taken care of, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You guys have seen the Ice Bucket Challenge? Have you seen the Belleville Ice Bucket Challenge? Is that on the web somewhere? The Ice Bucket Challenge?
It is. It's on YouTube. If you Google, put my name and Bob Costas, it'll come up.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to see the Belleville.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. And good luck this year.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, we'll second and final reading on here. Okay.
Ordinance number 1, for public hearing and second and final reading. An ordinance to convene the playground located at 89 and 91 Emmett Street, Mary East, and Fort Park.
Make a motion on the public hearing.
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kibble.
Yes.
Make a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Schumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Ordinance number 1 for second and final reading. An ordinance to make the playground located at 89 and 91 Emmett Street to Mary B. Center for the park.
Move final adoption?
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Schumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
The ordinance is approved. Ordinance number 2 for public hearing, an ordinance to amend revised general ordinances of the Township of Belleville, Chapter 8-2.9, parking time limited on certain streets, Schedule 4.
Make a motion, open it for public hearing?
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Schumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Make a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Schumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2 for second and final reading. An ordinance to amend revised general ordinances of the Township of Belleville, Chapter 8-2.9, parking time limited on certain streets,
Make-
Schedule 4.
Make a motion, move for final adoption?
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Schumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted. Ordinance number 3 for public hearing. An ordinance creating personnel positions and adopting classification and compensation plans.
Make a motion, open it for public hearing?
Second. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Take no part.
Schumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Make a motion, close public hearing?
Second. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Take no part.
Schumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Ordinance number 3 for second and final reading. An ordinance creating personnel positions and developing classification and compensation plans.
Make a motion for move for final adoption?
Second. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Take no part.
Schumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted. Ordinance number 4 for public hearings. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 3333, creating personnel positions and adopting classification and compensation.
Make a motion, move for public hearing?
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Schumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes. Straight in full.
But why are we deleting this position?
The woman left the job.
Why?
The woman left the job.
Right?
So
As a
we're
confidential
deleting-
secretary,
we're
so we don't
deleting
need
it
it.
from our salary ordinance.
Well, why wouldn't you just, if a woman left the job,
Because, well, if we're gonna hire somebody, we'll hire them at a lower salary, at a clerk salary.
all right, why can't you lower the salary of the confidential secretary?
Well, we could, but we chose to do it the other way.
All right, because the way I interpret this, this is a confidential secretaries are not protected by civil service.
That's
correct?
true.
All right. So, why don't we keep it and just lower the salary? Because the new administration comes in, they have the right to choose their own secretary. For confidentiality reasons, that's why it's called the confidential. So, you just,
Well, if a new administration comes in, they can change the ordinance back. Change it.
well, I don't understand why you,
Well, this is the way we chose to do it.
huh?
This is the way we chose to do it.
Well, and again, I'm pleading on behalf of the citizens, because then what happens, you have no power to get rid of a secretary unless you go through the civil service process, and as we've witnessed before, it winds up in lawsuits, and it costs we, the taxpayers, more money. This is a nice position to have, it's the correct position to have, and it's in the benefit of the taxpayers to maintain. If you're worrying about the salary, it's a simple amendment to the salary ordinance to reduce the salary for this position. But to eliminate this position is not in the best interest of the taxpayers. It's another political gimmick, and we're tired of it.
Thank you. Sir?
There was only one person in the position?
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Need your name,
It's like
address?
pretend you're at a zoning board meeting.
Telio Del Gercio, 8 Grove Street, Belleville. There's only one person in this position?
That's correct.
Make a motion, close public hearing.
Second.
Clerk will roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Take no part.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Ordinance number 4 for second and final reading. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 3333, creating personnel positions and adopting classification and compensation plan.
Make a motion, move for final adoption.
Second.
Clerk will roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
No.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Ordinance is approved. Ordinance number 5 for public hearing, ordinance of the Township of Belleville amending Chapter 5 licensing dogs.
Make a motion, open it for public hearing.
Second.
Clerk will roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Jeff Mattingly, 56 Walnut. Amending it how? Just curious, what is it being amended to?
What, the dog runnings?
I have a dog, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm amending it to that you can't leave them out when it's freezing.
Okay.
That you have to have them not on chains but on strong wire. You gotta make sure that if they're outside and they have a dog house, that the dog house is feasible for them to live in. That's what I'm amending it.
More humane conditions.
Wonderful, thank you. It's kind of ambiguous.
Yeah.
Mr. Frantantoni?
Phyllis Frantantoni, since you're amending it to that, amend it to put something in the ordinance that people that don't pick up after their dogs will get fined.
That's already in it.
It's already in there.
Is it, well, I hope they
Sure it is.
enforce it because they're not enforcing it.
Mr. Frantantoni?
Is it a requirement in the ordinance or the amendment to keep your dogs on leashes?
That's already in the
It's
law.
already in there.
It is in the law? Would it be in the ordinance to prohibit Councilman Kennedy from bringing his dog into town hall without a leash?
Probably would, but most of the time I bring them in on a leash. Why, you worried about my dog?
Yeah, I see almost every morning coming in without a leash in the town hall. And if rumor has it correctly, the dog have a doggy bed in one of the offices in town hall.
That's true.
Can we amend the ordinance to eliminate that, please?
Why?
Because it doesn't belong, first of all, it belongs on leash. You're an elected official, you should know better. And secondly, your personal dog does not belong in our property on his doggy bed.
Stress dog, I can take him anywhere I want. It's into a restaurant. He's a
Not
stress dog.
on my and the taxpayers' property. And nobody else, I object to it.
Well, okay,
And
you
keep
object.
him on
You
the-
object to everything.
It's a law.
All right.
And you're violating the law, bringing him in here. You jump out of your car, you open the dog runs in, everybody sees every morning. The dog just runs in with no leash. You violate your own law that you're trying to amend.
I ain't trying to amend that part. I'm trying to amend the dogs being left outside.
Again, if he gets in town, can we direct someone to give him a fine? Unleashed dog is in violation of
Mr.
your
Don't give us a
ordinance.
fine. Go press charges against me.
If you see,
I'll
you
pay
can
the
sign a
fine.
complaint.
That's it.
You know, this is so bad. this-
Make a motion close.
Second.
Clerk will roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Ordinance number 5 for second and final reading. Ordinance of the Township of Belleville amending Chapter 5 licensing of dogs.
Move for final adoption.
Second.
Clerk will roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
I just have a question. At the last meeting, Councilman Kennedy, you put in everybody's packet, or somebody did, about the inhumane things.
I did, down in
Yes.
North.
Yes,
I gotta bring that up at another meeting.
okay, because I am 100% for that. Because I have voted against that Humane Society for 10 years that I've been a councilwoman. Because I understand they do inhumane things there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Ordinance is approved.
Make a motion open public participation.
Second.
Clerk will roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Mr. Frantantoni?
Phyllis Frantantoni, now Prospect Avenue. The blinking lights that are by the schools that control, tells you how fast you go, a lot of them are not working. So I would wonder if somebody can go around and see which ones are not working. The ones by number 8 are not working, and see if we can get them fixed before school's over, because they're not
If we
blinking.
get them fixed and they're broke again, we'll look into it.
Yeah, but it just seems
I
like they
mean,
should.
they do get fixed and they break again. We'll see what they are and get them fixed again.
Okay. At the September 9th meeting of 2014, I had asked the council what was going on with School 1. And I was told that it was in School 1, it says that, I have the minutes from it, and it says that I had asked what was happening with School 1, and Mayor Kimball said the township was in negotiation with them. When I asked the second meeting, what negotiations, you told me I didn't know that I misheard, that there was no negotiations, but it's in the minutes. I would like to know what they're negotiating.
There was no negotiations. The Board of Education turned School 1 over to us.
No, it wasn't. This was after that. This was well after that.
Okay, Ms.
Because
Franklin,
nothing was being done. They were
The school
supposed to
board
start building.
turned number 1 school over to us.
She could be referencing the fact that we still have to negotiate a developers agreement with the developers.
Okay, if that's what you're talking about, the developer?
I don't know, whatever I
I
asked,
don't
you
know
told me
either,
there
but
was
just-
no negotiation.
They gave us the school. They gave us the school,
Then you sold it, right?
yes.
Okay. Are they gonna build on it, or what are they doing?
We are still working out the details of the developers agreement with the developer. Once the details of the developers agreement are completed, then we need to, with the developer's right to develop that property. Absolutely.
I thought he had the right to do that.
It does. We have to work out the developer's agreement. We want to get a developer as quickly as possible. We can't tell this developer immediately to start development. We'd have to put a restriction in the developer's agreement.
What happened to the guy this is the guy
It's the guy who won your bid.
that got the property?
Absolutely.
That was
Okay.
over before my board.
Well, I don't know, it just sounds a little screwy, but another thing, who's shoveling the snow around the property?
I was in contact with the property owner yesterday, and I believe they hired a contractor to get out there. I went by there yesterday, and did see some work taking place.
Okay, so they're doing it and we aren't.
No,
Because
we're
we've
not.
given him enough. Enough.
It's private property like any other private property. We do not take care of private property.
Oh, we don't? Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Franklin?
No, Mr. Estes, I take exception to that answer because they went before, my wife and others spoke. They were approved for development there. They're approved for 60 units,
Yes.
40 two-bedroom, and 20 one-bedroom apartments. Everything was approved.
With a commercial component.
Ready?
With a commercial component.
No, there was no commercial component. It was 60 units. There was no commercial component in that there.
Okay, so,
Now,
okay,
well,
good.
the deal is, then why did, my wife's absolutely, you told her that we're in negotiations. Follow up me, you said, oh, she was mistaken. Well, we got the minutes of the
I know what
meeting,
we- I-
the minutes of the meeting showed
Well,
that
know,
you
I
told
don't
me.
go by, I don't go back like you do and check everything, but we probably were in negotiations for sale of the property.
No. That was done a
You
year
can say
or
that,
so
but
before
I'm not gonna
that.
argue with you because I don't have everything in front of me.
Well, man, you ought to remember what you voted on.
Well, maybe you should tell me a week ahead of time and I'll look it up like you do.
It's the developer's agreement, sir. It's the developer's agreement.
What do you mean the developer's agreement? Is this another pilot? Or tax abatement?
There's no
Well, what's it? If the guy went through all the channels, which I didn't like taking out School 1, but he went through all the approvals, there was public hearings, the board voted to allow him to build it, Cosarelli was the architect, they described everything, where the parking, the green area and all that. This was ready for construction.
Because, sir, this was designated an area in need, okay? There was a proposal submitted. He has to submit a developer's agreement before he can begin development on that property. And comply with, the site plan has to go to the board, and he has to comply with the site plan.
How did he get approved to build it then?
He was awarded through, there were 2 proposals submitted on this property. 2 proposals.
No, there was 3. I have all 3 of them, Mr. Esposito.
No. There was one the first time.
The one was the best of all of them. Why that was rejected, nobody knows, you know. Nobody can answer why they rejected it.
Which one was that?
Which one was that, the original one? when they
I believe RAF, yes, the original one. The first developer
When it
was
was
gonna
in-
keep the
when it was
school
in- when it was
building.
in the Board of Ed hands? or-
School number one.
There was like three when, with the Board of Ed had it too.
No, the one with the Board of
We're not gonna
Ed,
talk
I
about
stopped it because I went to the Attorney General's office and there was some severe
That
conflict
was the
with
best
that
one.
one, all right? The
$2
RAF or RA thing,
RPM,
REM,
RPM.
RPM, that was the one, that, they were gonna keep the school building, put 28 units in there, construct another building on the north corner and put 30 units in there. That sat on the table for a couple of months and then you rejected. I asked at the public meeting, why was that rejected? And I got, same thing I'm getting now, all blank stares. Then you got two developers, Mr. DiPapolo and this other group, I think, local construction company. And they went through the process, of submitting their application to the town. The public hearings were held like any other development, and it was approved. And the reason I ask, because, you know, sometimes these people talk in public in a coffee shop and all, he's looking for, he said this in a coffee shop, he's looking to sell the property with the approval.
Mr. President, can we stop that?
No, but you gotta answer, what, the man got approval. Now, what's this developer's agreement? What is this all about after the man got approval to build something? He went through all the processes and all. What exactly do we need the developer's agreement for? And I don't want a non-elected official to answer.
We'll answer the way we want to answer, okay, Mr. Frantantoni?
Well,
Whoever's got the right, the correct answer, and the more knowledge of, they'll answer. You're not going to tell us how we're going to answer.
when you request them to answer for you.
All right, do you have an answer, Mr.?
I think I can move the discussion
How's
along.
that?
With regard to the first proposal, one of the key components in connection with that piece is that there was some environmental concerns on the portion of the lot closest to Main Street. What we needed to have, we meaning the township, was a protection that whoever took the property would take the environmental responsibility, which the first developer, I guess it's RPM that you're referencing, I think, was unwilling to do. The successful bidder for the property, as well as Mr. DiPapolo, the individual whom he was sponsoring, they both understood that going in. The property was awarded and closed under those circumstances, but there was a final piece of the puzzle that has only recently been put together. The owner of the property was not required to do anything to it until he received clear title. So what we did was we instituted an action in Superior Court that I believe was ultimately resolved in November or December of 2014 in an action to quiet title. Title now has been quieted, and the developer is going to have to move forward. And either developer, he's free to sell, if he wanted to. We can't tell him what to do in other words.
What was the problem with the title?
There was one lot that, going back, I think, to, that property now is one lot, one consolidated lot, but in years prior, there had been a couple of the lots that were owned by individuals, and no one could find out who they were. So the lots themselves had to be designated and served in a lawsuit through publication and a hearing conducted in the Superior Court, which was accomplished, and now the township does have title, clear title.
Yeah, this is such a joke. Because they had to go to court. Somebody stood right in this room and told you there was a problem with the title. Because I went down and researched the title, and you're right, one of the parcels showed the meets and bounds all the way to Valley Street. And I pleaded with you at meetings here. I said, look, I pleaded with the Board of Ed. There's a bad title here.
It's good now.
But, you see, then Mr. Kimball don't like it, I say corrupt and all that. When I come in, I do a little homework, which I don't see much done on the council members, present and past council members. But I knew about that defective deed and all that, and I tried to stop it, check the minutes of the meetings if you want, and nobody listens. And we keep doing all these things.
Well, no,
That are
Mr.
wrong,
Frantantoni, see, I advise the governing body that, in my opinion, we could get good title to that property, notwithstanding that there was one lot that we just couldn't account for. There were two separate title companies that could not account for the lot.
Well, how
But
can I
we knew-
define it? I'm just a lowly citizen. I went down Essex County, went to the room, and in 2 minutes, I went from one book to the other. I have a home, I have every deed
But
in it.
we
How
knew
come-
that.
What good are these title companies if they can't find what I found? It's right there in the whole
No,
record.
they found it, and what they weren't willing to do, you're in the real estate business. They weren't willing to insure the title unless the title was clear. So there was a question, can we get clear title to this property? Sometimes you just can't, in my opinion, because there had been nothing but a school there, and it hadn't been owned by anyone other than now the township, of course, prior the school system. I don't know if it was called the Belleville Board of Education 100 years ago, that I was pretty confident that just based on that occupation of the land, the town could eventually obtain clear title, and we have.
This is after the fact that everything was done. in
Frantantoni,
spite of-
you want to finish up your interrogation?
We don't get any answers. The reason you can't finish up because this goes on, and it's a disgrace. You sold the school, our school system is overloaded, and we don't have the school or the property yet. Now, if this isn't done yet, if this isn't a done deal, cancel the deal. If he wants to sell it, buy it back. And as far as the environmental thing, Mr. Murphy is wrong there, because in his contract, he didn't accept the cleanup responsibility. He wants the town to clean up. And the final thing, I'll paraphrase, in his contract, he wanted the town to knock it down, the town to clean up everything on the property, and after everything is cleaned up, I have the contract, it says he still has the right to reject.
But Mr. Murphy was
The deal.
referring to your comment about RPM's group.
No, I'm not.
The environmental, RPM group has a caveat about the environmental.
Yeah, RPM would not agree to absorb the
My
responsibility.
time is short, so I'll bring copies of it and I'll highlight what you said, because you guys are wrong, but I have to bring it to you, Now, in regards to Resolution 11, you're going to ask the Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney to investigate the Board of Education outrageous audit. You're a little late to the party, it's already in the process of being done, but we welcome you to do it too. However, I would add they should also investigate the library shenanigans on that one. And once again, Resolution 19, an area in need of redevelopment for Portland and Geralman Street. Let the builders build. If they want, that's not there, it's an occupied property, there's business on there now. If he wants to build, God bless him. Let him comply with our master plan and our zoning ordinance and stop giving away our taxpayers' dollars to them. And I'm very glad that Mr. Stanton came here tonight because the ordinance you introduced today about the Roach property, we're gonna get it for $1 and I'm assuming we're gonna absorb the environmental cost. And Mr. Stanton says they never come in as budgeted. They always go 4, 5, 10 times. I've been involved with many of them through the Sacred River Coalition. They go on and on for years and years. So you introduced that tonight by a 4-2 vote. Hopefully, you won't even hold a public hearing on it because it's a bad, bad idea. Don't compound previous errors this town has made. We're going nowhere because you keep doing these things. Caters, developer come in, you cater. Developer, you meet him at McLoon's Boathouse to make a deal with the governor and county executive, Mr. Mayor. This is wrong. This is
Wait,
wrong.
wait,
When was that?
wait, who said I did that?
Matt Friedman, the Star Ledger reporter, in his article.
Was Matt Friedman there?
Huh?
Was Matt Friedman there?
Well, I'm
I'm
quoting
asking you a
the
question.
newspaper article.
I don't care what the newspaper article said. I did meet the governor of Matt Jones, yeah. We didn't make no deals here. We had breakfast there with
Well-
several other
Well,
people.
then I'll tell you what I was a witness to.
Go ahead.
I was a witness to the phony public hearing held at the senior citizen lot, that this was the historic first ever senior citizen project in Belleville. The invitation was signed by
I know,
DiVincenzo
it's
and
age
you,
restricted.
and that was not a
It's age
senior
restricted,
citizen
Mr.
project.
Frantantoni.
I and hundreds of
I know.
others were witness to that scam,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor.
The last three things you brought up was all development and you were against every one. And I could tell you,
Property.
no, I'm not gonna debate you. You finished. It's my turn now.
Right,
Okay?
right.
For the past, I don't know how many years you've been against everything that's brought up in this town,
Oh, what a liar.
okay? And it's gonna continue and continue, and I hope that this council don't listen to you. Thank you, Mr. Frantantoni.
But you go to
I'm
planning
sorry.
board and zoning board. When I don't speak up for something, don't tell me I'm against it. You're for everything for
Mr.
developers to help
Frantantoni, you're
the
finished, you're
taxpayer.
finished.
Yeah, and so are you.
He's just beginning, he was saying.
I'm sorry, I can't let you speak again. You spoke already.
No, that was on
It was
the,
too-
it was on the
okay,
order.
okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Frantantoni's getting me all riled up here.
Let's see if I can calm you down. Jeff Mattingly again, 56 Walnut. First, Mr. Esposito, the county, Hendricksfield, as of yesterday, had not cleared the sidewalk along Garden Avenue portion or Joalman. Kids are going to the high school, walking in icy streets as cars try to jockey past each other in narrow areas. It's a real health hazard. I don't know if other areas around the town were affected. I saw those too. Ordinance number 1 that you're introducing. I have a lot of concerns myself, and as Mr. Murphy pointed out, taking on the property environmental responsibilities is a major endeavor. And I'd like to know whether or not, if you can at this point, have you received environmental studies on that property that are detailed, and if so, what level?
We have,
We have, I know we have, yes.
and they're
Can I-
being further reviewed.
What level environmental study? Or 1 or 2?
Yeah, there's actually been an ongoing one there for quite some time.
Okay, so it is well detailed and documented in your,
We think so, and that's, we had some additional questions that they're being reviewed now.
is there a particular reason why market forces can't do it in the hands of the industry that polluted it?
Well, that's an interesting statement, because it may be that the current owner, I'm not saying this, from any degree of authority, but it may be that the current owner took the property when it was already affected environmentally,
Extremely likely.
and they may in fact have had nothing at all to do with whatever conditions are on the property. As you know, Jeff, that property's been closed, I guess, for 5 or 6 years.
That's my concern, actually,
And they've
because,
been looking at it. It was the subject of some tax litigation that we resolved several years ago. And the real issue, I don't want to go into this, at any great length, because it was only on for introduction. I don't want to stimulate discussion of it now. I don't think it's the appropriate time.
Well, wait for the hearing, because
Yeah,
you're talking
yeah.
about it. we
well, just the
introduced
point,
it.
my point being is that Max Finkelstein didn't pollute the Walter Kitty property either.
No, Walter Kitty did.
That's correct. And so, what you have in Roche ownership has nothing to do with whether or not Juergens did a whole lot of problems that may have affected groundwater as far down as 400 feet, which is what we're treating now.
I don't think it was even Jordan.
Well,
Pardon me?
I don't think it was
Before
even Jordan.
Jordan.
Before Jordan.
Because before Juergens, even more, let's face it, the river is an industrial highway for 300 years, all kinds of industry.
Well, the
and
real issue
businesses
here,
have been on either
and I want
side.
to leave this alone, Mayor. The real issue is that the town has a chance to acquire what we believe is a choice piece of real estate. Or we can leave it alone. or Roach can sell it to a developer of their choice. And I think what the governing body is going to consider is what's the best for the township under those very limited set of circumstances. Now, if Roach, I believe if Roach is told that the township doesn't want it, they will sell it to a developer. The town will have no say in who that developer is whatsoever. And more importantly, the town will not derive whatever profit can be made from the sale of that piece. That is probably a pretty significant sale that can be made of that property if it meets the appropriate environmental conditions attendant to a non-residential use.
Okay, excuse me, but didn't the town change the zoning on that property when Roche was seeking a developer?
Well, Roach wasn't really looking for a developer. What they were looking to do was a change in the zone.
To make it attractive to develop.
Pardon me?
To make it attractive to develop.
And I believe the township was too, but you know, early on in the discussions with them have been going for a long time.
I remember.
For a very long time.
In fact, Manager Canning brought it in, and supposedly 3.5 acres was going to come to
That's
Belleville.
what we're gonna try to get.
We were going to, that was part of the deal, as far as I understand, in changing the zoning from obviously industrial,
Well,
which
not
no one's
3.5.
going to buy it.
There was some discussion early on of putting acreage to a school type of a use.
Right, I remember.
So,
I was real
again,
excited
you know,
about it.
again, this is really not because we've had, what I've discussed with you briefly is, I think, appropriate, but the discussions with the company are ongoing, and it really wouldn't be in the spirit of what those negotiations were to go any further. You know,
I'm concerned about the town's liability,
Yeah.
quite frankly. I really don't, you know, I understand the
We all
deal
are.
is
it's a huge concern.
It is. It's a huge piece of property, and it's going to be a hinging point. In fact, the development in Belleville is something that's unique to Belleville in Essex County. Nobody has acreage and plots the size that we do in the areas that we do. And I do know that everybody that comes down the pike comes to the town looking to build residential. If you come down East Center Street in Nutley, right on our border, there's a huge development, condominiums there, that are virtually empty. For 2.5 years, it's been under construction, and there's almost no inhabitation there whatsoever. I'm very concerned about residential development in Belleville, but I don't want anybody to think that I'm anti-development. I'm far from that. I see it as our salvation. And these redevelopment plans, like in item 19 here, it's going back to the planning board. These things are massive in terms of the future of our town, whether it becomes a city, whether, and quite frankly, all the tales of we need more residential, those towns that have followed that plan find themselves in huge deficit spending with major problems. And it is really not, the salvation is in commercial. And in rehabbing the industrial, you look at the Cipher building, there was no parking, it was all but ready to be taken down. That thing's fully inhabited now with small businesses, but it's industrial, fully inhabited, producing revenues, costing the town nothing in terms of services. Puts no kids in the schools, pays taxes, pays their own garbage, recycling, it's all win-win for Belleville. Residential has legacy costs that are staggering. So as these development issues come up, when people are seeking federal funding vehicles in order to do development, it suggested me that it would not be possible under private forces where banks would say, nah, too high a risk. But with funding vehicles, they build it, they get paid. We get stuck with the legacy, win or lose. So that's a major concern. I'd really like a lot of conversation, a lot of information to determine what the best use of those properties are before the town forges ahead. And now we're sending things to the planning board. I would hope that the council would direct President Venero that when professional information and testimony is brought to the board, there's no limit on public participation. We were stifled with 5-minute conversations after listening, 3 people, 5 minutes, after listening to more than 2 hours of testimony. And it's near and dear to me. I have a building that's directly across the street from the Kitty property. Flood came halfway up the block during Katrina. That's about as far as tides are going to take it. But the fact of the matter is, it's not a place for residential. The Cortlandt Street at the corner, when you come down Geralman and turn north toward Nutley, floods out regularly, repeatedly, as the tides come in and go out when there's heavy rains and flooding. So proper development in the right area is critical to our mutual prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tricia Dolan, 67 Harrison Street. Where the construction's being done behind the senior building on Franklin, there's water seeping out of the ground onto Franklin Avenue. Is it possible that there's a crack in the water main? Because it's constant, the water.
Bill, do you know anything about that?
No.
Just check it out.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Jerry Del Gershio, 8 Grove Street. 2 questions. The school number 1, is that paying taxes as of now?
Yes, sir.
How long has it been paying taxes?
Since January of 2013. I'm sorry, January of last year.
So since January of
January
2014?
of 2014.
So the title was conveyed to them already in order for them to pay taxes, am I
Acquired
correct?
the property on December 30th of 2013, became taxable effective January of 2014.
Were they behind in taxes at all, or you don't know?
Not aware of them. I'm
Okay.
aware of the fact that
Second question, on this other development on Franklin Avenue, the Roach property, are they currently paying taxes?
yes, they are.
Okay, if the town took it over, the taxes would stop, of course,
Be exempt upon transfer.
upon transfer. Also, I understand, Mr. Murphy, you said you're currently in a negotiation. If you're currently in negotiation, why would there be an ordinance to accept conveyance or purchase?
Required by statute.
Wasn't that after the negotiation?
Negotiations are not concluded.
That's what I'm saying, they're not concluded.
No.
So why would you accept the buy or accept conveyance if it's not concluded yet?
This would just empower the governing body to do the transaction.
In the future,
Correct.
after.
Correct.
Now, in the event the town didn't take the property, that it stayed exactly the way it is, it would continue paying taxes, correct?
Correct.
And if it sold it to a new developer, the taxes would then go to the new developer, and he would be paying taxes. In other words, there would be a constant, there would be no stopping of paying taxes.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I want to ask. Thank you.
Sir?
Excuse me. Hi, I'm Frank Fleischman. I'm from 132 Franklin Street. You heard from me last around October when I wrote a very extensive email about the River Run property. Not here about that tonight, but I am hopeful that you will really consider putting that back to the planning board. It's just not, I think it's not a really great fit for Belleville. I actually, after I had that email, I had a nice long telephone conversation with Mr. Regan. He had given me a call, and I respect his vision, I respect what he wants to do, but it's just not a very good fit for Belleville, in my opinion. So I hope that all of you are going to really consider putting that back to the planning board for revision.
Sir?
The reason why I'm here,
I'm sorry, at the next meeting, we're inviting Mr. Regan in here. We're gonna give him about an hour's time, 5:30 to 6:30, to explain to us and to explain to anybody that's in the audience what they want to do, and then we will make the determination whether to send it back to the planning board or go through with their plans.
thank you, Mr. Mayor, appreciate that. The reason why I'm really here is what Mr. Miller-Burke had just brought up before about the Silver Lake Firehouse. I heard the town manager speak about it, but I didn't really catch exactly what he had said. Are we waiting for presentations from the fire department about it?
Yes, I'm going to invite the fire chief.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because it's been closed almost 2 years, give or take a couple of months. I'm just wondering what took so long for action to come up on it.
Prior to the SAVER grant that we had, there was a staffing issue where that building was closed on a routine basis.
I knew that, yes.
And we're currently staffed at a greater level than we were previously. So that's one of the discussions that the chief will bring up when we discuss the future of that site.
Are we fully staffed now as far as the fire department?
Well, that's an issue. I mean, I don't know whether we could sustain, and I would defer to the chief on that. We certainly can provide him with fire coverage, but I don't know whether or not he can sustain having the 3 houses completed at all, and fully open at the same time. So I would defer to the chief's presentation.
Because as Councilwoman Strumelberg had mentioned, we did have a fire this week. Looks like we've had a lot of fires in Belleville, but where it rains and pours sometimes with that. My wife and I actually saw the apparatus come, and I saw Nutley had shown up, Nutley Truck 1, okay? Now, I understand, I'm from 2 generations of firefighters myself. I understand mutual aid, it's there for a reason, it's a necessity, that sort of thing. It bothered me that Belleville Truck 1 came all the way from the other side of town to Silver Lake for this, because it would seem that it would be better if we had our own people there, and then the trucks, the trucks from other towns, if necessary, would man those stations. So it just made me wonder if we're having a manpower issue this time.
Well, it is possible that they were out on another call at the time. I'd have to check with the fire department to see what the staffing level was that day. I'm sure they were fully staffed, and whether or not the other truck was out on another call. Like you said, at this time of the year, unfortunately, with the extreme weather conditions and some of the older homes that we have, there's stress on the system. Certainly, it's put to the test.
One of the reasons why, my wife and I and our neighbors are, kind of concerned about the closing of the fire department, the firehouse rather, is it's an act of deterrent to a certain extent. In the 2 years that it's been closed, my neighbor's had his car stolen. My other neighbor has had his car vandalized 3 different times. There's been a couple of break-ins of cars in the area. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but when you have an active presence in the neighborhood, sometimes that lessens it a little bit. It lessens the opportunity, that sort of thing. Also, since it's been closed, past 2 summers, the grass has grown in the back, like the landscape has been done very well. I get a little upset when it comes to a point where I hear possums and cats basically mating in it, and that's when I Facebook Kevin and Marie, because I want the 2 of you to work together on this, to ask, Public Works to come on out and, landscape, that sort of thing. The problem is that it's, it's something that Silver Lake is really kind of dependent on. Firefighters are people, like to a certain extent. Fire departments and firefighters are people who are in the back. Okay, they don't come up to your mind a lot, but when there's a fire, here they come. So it's it's a quality of life issue for us to a certain extent. The final thing I'll just mention, and this is completely unrelated, but this is the first council meeting I've been to in quite a few years, and that's my bad. I should be here a little bit more. I'm sure that you guys do a lot of work. You do a lot of good work, that sort of thing, and I'm sure it upsets you when people throw things like corruption at you, or accuse you of certain things. Let me just ask you: have you guys ever considered starting a local government ethics board committee, as allowed by state law? Has that ever come up?
So it never came up, but as you know, we're under investigation all the time by the Attorney General, the prosecutor's office.
Especially
I don't know where else we can go. FBI,
No, I think it would be something that, it would show, I think it would show residents who are otherwise skeptical that the council said, okay, we're tired of this, we're tired of being accused of this sort of thing, let's put something in place.
it's really not all residents.
Well, I understand that. I understand. Thank you very much.
Michael Sheldon, 47th White Street. I just wanted to give a brief update on the status of the township's new website. First of all, I'd like to thank, I forgot at the last meeting to thank Mayor Kimball, Deputy Mayor Kevin Kennedy, Councilman Cosarelli, Ravel, and Natari for giving me this opportunity last year to develop a new website for the township. Township's website now has been running for almost 3 weeks. During the first 10 days, we got over 13,000 visits, and it's been averaging almost 1,000 visits per day. I'd like to also thank Kevin Esposito, Rowe in his office, and Charlie Hood for their help behind the scenes and helping me get some of the data together to get the website launched. The next phase of the website is going to involve enabling online bill paying. We're hoping to have that fully implemented before the next quarter's taxes are due. So I'm working on moving the website forward each and every day. If anyone has suggestions, detect any content errors, etc., please get in touch with me. But I'm hoping to bring bigger and better things to the website as we move through the rest of the winter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shilton. Yeah.
Gary Henry, 07 Fairway Avenue. First, Lieutenant was talking about moving the cones and chairs and everything, having the Department of Public Works move them all out of there. I think it might be better if you get a plow and plow them while the people at work, plow them streets closer to the curb. This way they have the parking spots, and it'll end a lot of this confusion about fighting over the parking spot that somebody showed about. Second thing is the Bridgebrook Apartments. Every year, they plow, they push that fence in, the bars down, the fence along the field there, the fairway field. They got the first part where they keep the dumpster. They plowed it so much that it's pushed the fence out this far, right where the opening is where you go in. So you have to try and go in there with a truck, you might not be able to make it. If you can, I asked you this many times before.
I know it's every year.
I know, because we're paying for that fence to be fixed all the time, the taxpayers. If we could get them to put the guardrail up along that fence, it'll help and it'll stop all this damage every year after year after year.
And we've been asking, I'll tell you the truth.
I know, and I know everybody's strapped for money, but we need to do something.
Well, they do repair it, though.
Excuse me?
They do repair it.
Yeah. Well, maybe if they could get these guys that are plowing, stop plowing, learn how to plow the snow, you know? The third thing is roach property. I hope that you check into this and don't get us into debt with the cleanup of that property, because I think it's gonna turn out to be like Walter Kitty.
We're looking to make a profit.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't get burdened with the cleanup costs. You never know what's involved until you start doing it.
Well, we hope we're doing enough testing, so we're not fooled by anything when it comes to it.
Thank you.
Mr. Juice? Yes.
Carmela Fleshman, 132 Franklin Street. In regards to Magnolia Street, the first time it snowed, the police went by, announced everybody off Magnolia Street. Everybody moved their cars, and frankly, they did not a great job. There was no cars on Magnolia either side, and they didn't do a fabulous job. That's number one. Second time, they didn't announce anything, they didn't have anybody move their cars off of it. Now it's like landmines all over. There's snow, there's ice everywhere. You can't drive down the street. The lane is about yo big. Ambulances can't get down there, and that's the back of Clara, Mass. So ambulances and police are having a hard time getting down Magnolia, because I hear them skidding on Magnolia. So if ambulances can't get through, that's a huge problem, okay? Then with the firehouse, okay, now, I know you said it, you have to get the chief in here, that's lovely. I've heard through the years, guaranteed it'll be reopened. Guaranteed, it was a roof problem, then it was this asbestos problem, now it's a man problem. Can we pick one story and stick to it? What is the truth? Excuse me?
All three of them are correct.
All three are correct. Oh, good. So, you know, can we get like one story though? Okay.
That's one story.
When they plow, when they shovel in front of the firehouse, the sidewalk is clear, the opening, the driveway is not. If they're plowing that, why can't they plow the driveway? Okay? Then also parking in front of the closed firehouse. Our neighbors have gotten tickets. One police officer says, you can park there because the firehouse is closed, and they say they can't park there because it's still in front of a firehouse. Can we, again, get one story?
If they're parking in front of the driveway, if that's what you're telling me.
No, they're not parking in the driveway. There's about 3 spots in front of our building. Then there's the driveway, then there's the rest of Franklin, okay? Now this was, mind you, before any of the snow happened. We would park in the front because we were told, since the firehouse is closed, since it's been closed, we can park in the front of the
Who
building.
told you that?
We were told, a
By
police
who?
officer.
Police officer?
My next door neighbor called the police department and said we could park in front of Franklin, in front of the house on Franklin. Like I said, has nothing to do with snow or any other issue, just any day of the week. Normally time, because the firehouse has been closed. Because when the firehouse was open, we never parked there because we knew the firefighters parked there. You know, again, we're getting so many.
The only thing I can tell you, I'm almost positive it's a town ordinance that governs that parking there, so if it's regulated, you can't park there.
Okay, then can we make the sign legible? Because the sign is not legible.
Okay.
The sign is not legible, the yellow stripe is not legible.
We could put no parking between signs. That would,
You know, and just with the firehouse, with the grass, like he said, he's called you guys on numerous occasions. It shouldn't have to be that way. It's still part of this town. Regardless if it's open or not, it's still part of this town. And it's a responsibility, if you're sending out public works to maintain the other 2 firehouses, why are you sending them out to maintain the one that's closed? Thank you.
Make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes. Consent agenda?
Make a motion to move to consent agenda.
Second.
Wait, what's this?
1, 2, and 17.
1, 2, and 17?
17.
18.
18?
And 11.
Steve? Joe? Okay, let's still pick the consent agenda as a whole.
Okay. Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Move resolution number 1.
Second.
Kelly, take off voucher 1402984 and 1402982. They go back to the library.
I'll second it.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Move resolution number 2. All right.
I'll second it.
All right, no, but first, the Belleville Little League, 92 Montgomery Street, their raffle licenses, you know, I've been trying to get proof that that building's insured. The last insurance policy we have for that building is 1990. So, I want to vote to approve these, not Silver Lake, approve the Belleville Little League license that they produce an insurance policy.
Insurance certificate?
Do we own that
I don't
building?
care, yeah, we own it. They lease it for $1 a year.
So they have to give us like an insurance.
They're supposed to have an insurance policy on it, so I want to see an up-to-date insurance policy before they get the license.
Can I just bring something out here?
Yeah, bring one of them out.
If it's our building, the building would be insured under our general policy insuring, as long as it's named on the policy, maybe we should check that out.
But they would have to have some sort of liability to
Yeah.
to use it, correct?
They've been invited to the office, the next one.
Yeah, all right. Okay, move it.
Certificate, just saying they don't have the liability.
I'll second, quick call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Take no
No,
part.
Mayor
Move resolution.
Mayor Kibble?
Yes. Resolution 11.
Move resolution 11.
Second.
I just wanted to ask you.
Quick call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Take no part.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Take no part.
Mayor Kibble?
Yes.
Resolution number 17.
Second.
The problem with that one is I don't mind the towing companies selling cars, but why does the township of Belleville have to pay to advertise?
We selling it or they're selling? We get the, wait, we're selling it or they're selling?
They're selling it, they have liens on it, I guess, and they want to get a clear title, so it's a
Oh,
2,000.
so the 4,000 in liens is from them?
Yeah,
Oh, it's not from a bank?
no,
Not
and
clear.
then we pay for the advertisement to sell the car, and they sell the car, we don't get nothing. So we have to look into letting them sell their, pay for the advertisements like North does.
What do you want to pay us?
No. Just gotta look into having them pay for the advertisements.
See what the contract has to say.
Yeah.
Quick call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Kibble?
Yes.
Move resolution 18.
I want to make a motion to pull that, to table it. I just want clarification.
What do we want to pay?
Well, then you gotta stop all the photography because we're not abiding by the law. You gotta put it out for bid. It hasn't been out for bid in the last 2 years.
The auditors are the ones that tell us we have to.
So you gotta stop it.
Because he's doing.
Well, he's gotta stop.
We got a guy doing it now, that's the problem.
Yeah, well, then he's gotta stop because according to the order, it has to go out for bid.
When
So
is his contract over? Kevin, do you know?
this contract was over 3 years ago.
So he's doing the pictures, no contract right now?
Right.
Yeah.
Can I just get clarification, Tom? Maybe you can explain to me why if we're not involved in the transaction?
I expressed my opinion privately. We were told by the auditor to do it this way.
It's a vending service.
Pardon me?
It's a vending service.
It's considered like a vendor
Vending
service, like a
It's a
franchise?
vending service. Even though we don't get paid or we don't pay, it's a vending service.
Oh, the other guy used to pay us before him.
I need a second.
Can we ask for a second? Can we ask for payment?
Put it out for bid. Put it
Proposal
out.
submitted, someone can submit a proposal.
Was this ever out for bid before?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah. That was my idea.
Is it in there for them to pay? This new one?
No,
Maybe we should put that in.
maybe. I mean, this is just saying we can advertise for it, right? The spec hasn't
I
been.
remember going out for a bid to an individual from South Jersey.
Right.
Won the bid.
Right, I remember that.
Somebody from South Jersey.
Maybe we could, who's gonna write the pictures, you know?
We'll probably have the old bid. She has the old bid. Just tell us send out the old bid with the prices. That's all you do.
I'll second it, quick call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Longo?
No.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
No.
Mayor Kibble?
Yes. New business?
I have a little new business.
Oh, good.
I have none.
My question is this. If Roche wants to give us the property for $1, and they have monies in an
No,
escrow,
we're giving them the property.
yes, why don't we're giving him $1, we're giving Roche $1, okay? So my question is, if we have money in an account, in an escrow account, why don't they clean up the property and we'll pay them the $1?
I don't think we could discuss too much of this.
I'd asked at
Okay,
the beginning of the
well,
meeting,
fine,
the
then
room is
that's a
full,
statement that I
Mayor,
just
to go
made.
into private, that's exactly what I'd like to discuss in private when the meeting is concluded.
Okay.
You want to go into private now?
No, hold on.
Can I finish my question?
Is that new business?
All right. Could you tell me how much, I don't know if this is private too, how much the Roche property pays for taxes?
That's public.
That's
public.
About,
Approximately $100,000.
I don't think so.
I'm sorry?
I says, I don't think so.
You went
Because
to
I
the-
looked it up, it looked like 60 to me. 60,000.
Is that correct?
All right, well,
I'll get you the
all right,
exact figure.
that's another
I'll
question.
get you the exact figure.
All right. My question on this Silver Lake Firehouse is, the Fleischmans were right. This thing has been going back and forth and back and forth. We had $800,000 to $900,000 to do a new firehouse. Of course, we couldn't get the votes to do it because they said they couldn't fund it. Fine. So then we came up with, well, we'll put a bond ordinance out and we'll get the Silver Lake Firehouse redone, which I was against anyway, because you could probably not even fit a big fire engine in there. Now, all of a sudden, you guys are saying, well, we have to talk with the chief. This is 3 years. How many more years are we going to talk to the chief? It's not fair to the citizens of my ward, and I would like to know what is going on. And also the friendly house. It's sitting there, all right? So you say now, when the weather gets better, we're going to fix it. Fine. What are we going to sit on? The floors? That's it.
I don't think we determined what it's gonna be yet.
Mr. Esposito said, oh, what do you mean?
It's gonna be the friendly house, but what are we gonna use it for? I don't think that's been determined yet.
Well, the intent of the friendly house was that we were going to have a school like they have at the rec house. The rec house is literally not the best building in the world, and you could have had the children in there. Plus, I found out that there's something about they could use it for the fire. I can't remember. Yes, well, the PBA, yes, the PBA did come to me. And they said they would use it for their meetings because they have to pay. You could use it for any tricky trays. There's so many uses for this, and it just sits there. It just sits there. And I guess it's because of me. So maybe I should resign for a week and then come back and maybe we'll get the right thing done. That's all I have to say.
Joe, you have anything? Joe, you have anything? I mean, Steve.
Yeah, I had a couple of things. I just want to clarify, we're going to do a reverse 911 call out there to let people clean, tell them to clean their cars off, move the garbage cans, move the cones, correct? Is that, in relation to the firehouse, I know Vinnie and I talked a little bit about this, and Marie brought it up as well. The question there was putting a large pumper in there is out of the question to tell me. Well, what could we do? And that's one of the things I want the chief to tell us, is what can we do? I don't want to hear we can't do something. I want to hear what can we do. The last piece, back to the friendly house, Marie, I've been waiting for police cars for a year now. And a lot of it had to do with how we went about bonding and how we finally got the bonding done. Because without the bonding, even the roads we wanted done. So I take exception because I have roads that I want done, like you have the friendly house that wants to get done. I know the policemen are waiting for cars. Hopefully today, with the approval that we got, they can actually go out and get it. But a lot of it had to do with the bonding too, as well. So, I take exception.
Well, you can take exception to it.
No, it's the truth.
Because you took $800,000 out of the bond ordinance.
For a
That's the exception.
$2.4 million, firehouse bond.
$800,000 came out. What you did with it,
Come on.
God only knows. God only
Take things
knows.
out of context and you can make them sound.
Yeah, that's
What do you think we do
right,
with
that's
it,
right. It's,
Yeah, give me a break.
What do you
we
think we
should give
did?
you a break.
Yeah.
Marie?
Give us a break.
You were
Promise.
sitting on the council, what did we do with it?
I have no idea. You said you fix roofs or something.
Well, we did roofs, we did roads.
You
Roofs
voted
and roads.
for it.
Well, yeah, but that money was for a specific person. I mean, a project.
Uh-oh, specific person, we can say that.
So,
What are you, a clown?
Yes, I am.
I know.
motion
You know what,
adjourned.
this is really ridiculous.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Oh, wait a minute, no.
Wait a minute, go to private.
We gotta go to private.
Motion go
But
private.
there'll be nothing after it, right?
No, we're not gonna have any, anything. No votes on anything.
I'm not even-
There'll be no action taken.
Motion go to private.
Second.